Hello everybody, today it's another KeyShot tutorial. In this tutorial I want to show you how to use textures and distortion to create some very special and more unique materials and appearances in KeyShot. It's not your everyday materials, so I think you will enjoy this a lot. If you do, please follow, and if you like, support me. Thank you very much. Let's go. This is KeyShot. I think most of you might be familiar with it. Today is going to be about materials, so let me just hide this guy and we bring in a cube. And then I want to apply this material to the cube. Then we make it a plastic material, hard, rough. Bring it down like this. And this will be the baseline for our scene. You can obviously apply all the materials that we are going to cover today to everything, but I will just make a multi-material and then we jump into the material graph to see what happens. Material graph. All right, I will pull it up. Right, so this is the basic plastic material, right? No textures, nothing. It's just some roughness, some refraction, a color, specular, and diffuse. So I want to start with, if you go to textures, brush is the first one. It's a nice one, right? So obviously the brush is meant for like brushed metal, right? But if you go in here, we can do whatever we want with it and test things, play with it. There's no need to just keep using it for metal only, right? I think it also gives like nice wooden appearance. Maybe do this one, -1. So the length of the grooves obviously will change how long these lines are. But also maybe we want to play around and keep them really short, right? Also the contrast is something really interesting. Let's create a label. Plastic or metal maybe. Make it metal. Choose metal. And make it the label. And let's make it gold. Roughness. Some roughness. And now we apply the opacity map to this guy. So we can appreciate the material effects a little bit better. Right, so now we can also see the effect that the contrast would have. You can still use this as the bump. So if we increase the contrast a lot, you see what happens, right? That we get much more depth into the shading of this material. And I do feel like this looks like wood already, not just metal, even though it's applied as a metal label. And let's say add some levels. This really makes it pop much more, nice contrast. You can also add some grain if you want. So this is more like a secondary texture. If you go really close, you can sometimes see that it's like dots. Let me remove the denoise. Maybe, yeah. You do see that there's this cloud that is moving along, right? This is basically the grain is just like an additional overlay of another texture. Okay, and then obviously the distortion. And here I think people usually play it safe. They want to not go too wild. Also, if you put the slider up, it only goes to 1, but it's basically unlimited. So you can also go 5, and then the distortion immediately increases, right? And then once you're at 5, also the rate of the changes that the scale allows for adjusts, so you can quickly go much higher. And I think this is a really cool effect, right? You get this wavy pattern, wavy look. Maybe, let's see, I want to give it a little bit more rounding. So I just fake. So it has a highlight of some sort on the edge and doesn't just cut off like a sharp thing. All right. I think this looks nice, right? So let's put in the settings that I tested out before. So that would be size 30, groove length, we make it 2, contrast 3 is fine, levels also 3, grain size 3, and distortion. Now we go crazy. Or maybe, okay, let's do the other one. Okay, now I'm already at it. 35. And see what we get here. Like, this is something completely unexpected, right? The distortion is basically another secondary texture field that distorts, obviously, the base texture of the brush. But also you see that it's two separate things that are overlaid on top of each other. But I really find this to be really cool. Maybe some minerals also have similar appearance, right? Where there are several layers that form inside of a rock in a very polished manner in different colors. But I think this is a really cool example. And now let me just go into the material and make it a multi-material. And now we can go back here. And now we'll just copy this one, bring it into order. And now we're in the second one, right? So at the moment, they're exactly the same. And now maybe if you don't want to go as extreme, that would be what should have been my first example, but I just went straight to this guy. So I do 1 here, contrast 3, levels 5. We have grain 4 and grain size 2.5. And now I reduce the distortion dramatically. And then, yeah, this is basically what we had before, right? We saw it. But I do think this really looks like convincing wood, like old wood texture, even though this is brushed still, right? So just keep it in mind that with these textures, you can also emulate other textures that are already existing, but by making it your own, they will always be a little bit different from the work of other people, for example, a little bit more unique. You have maybe a little bit more control. Right now we can really say how long the grain should be, the grooves, and how much distortion and so forth, how much the contrast. So maybe that's not something you can do in the regular wood material application, right? So let's go and move on straight to the next one.